Well, it's 3 o'clock. Jason, Trish, it's all yours.
Well, thanks, Commissioners, Chairman Lawson. As you know, last week you guys got a report from Lieutenant Anderson on the Eclipse festivities that are going to occur and the number of folks coming into town. That's very much been on planning's radar for quite a while now, and we have received quite a few calls from Natrona County residents that are wanting to establish campgrounds or tent sites for this eclipse, and a number of them have advertised on various social media outlets and are very much gung-ho and wanting to do this correctly. We did not have a mechanism in place to establish a temporary campground like this. We have conditional use permits that are available, but those quote-unquote brand the property for the lifespan of the property. They go with the property. These folks are really just after temporary campgrounds just for the eclipse. So what we have before you is a eclipse permit. We would like to propose that we enact emergency rules to put these into effect. This is a free permit. We're not charging for this permit. This is really about the landowners thinking about public health, safety, and welfare. How do we look at campground or camp spot spacing, emergency services vehicles getting in and out, sanitary facilities. We've already kind of steered them in the direction that we're going to more than likely be in a fire ban, just as we discussed the last work session. So open campfires and bonfires would be good to not have. So we've got before you our application. This is only for the eclipse. This is truly a once-in-a-lifetime event, so we did not want to put it in permanent rule form just for a short period of time. It's only good for before and after the eclipse, and secondly, it provides a tracking mechanism. We'll go back after the fact and make sure the campsites are cleaned up and land's returned to the way it was. Did I hit everything there, Trish?
Yeah, I have been working with Stu Anderson to let him know when these permits come in, we would be forwarding them to EMS and fire. Also putting it out on GeoSmart, or a form where they can get to it through the internet, so they can see the permits and the population, to keep track of where these big groups are, or even multiple small groups in one area.
Excellent points. That'll tie back into emergency services so they can help. One suggestion that's came forward is just the numbering of the spots, so that if someone's having a medical emergency, it's in slot, I'm just going to say 7A, so that when they're talking to dispatch, it's not, I'm sitting beside the white camper. They've actually got a location. So.
Okay.
So, if I could, I'm looking at the beginning there, and it says, granting this permit will not cause undue traffic, parking, or population density, or environmental problems. How are you addressing that so it doesn't? What is undue traffic? I mean, can somebody put somebody in every 10 feet of their property and have 500 cars out there? Or what? That wouldn't meet that definition. I was just wondering how this is being addressed in this permit.
Chairman Lawson, the best example I would give you on that is we've had landowners along Hat 6 that have wanted to do it. There we would want to talk about traffic flows in and out of Hat 6. We would communicate with the highway department about we're going to use this approach and this approach to get in and out of here. We don't want folks randomly entering and exiting Hat 6 Road in a haphazard fashion. Agreed, if it were a permanent use, we'd be looking at A-cell lanes and D-cell lanes in a traffic study, but this is just for a short period of time, so we're really going to evaluate it on a case-by-case basis and make it as best we can with the facilities we have. Does that address your question? Or?
Well, and Rob said, well, travel units must be maintained 15 feet of separation. Well, if I have 5 acres of land and I only maintain 15 feet of separation, I can have a lot of traffic going in and out of there. I'm just using that as an example. And so I was just wondering how you were going to address this where it doesn't, going back up here, granting the permit doesn't cause undue traffic, parking. I just was curious how that was going to be addressed.
And as you can see, those guidelines very closely mimic our guidelines for conditional use permits, with the exception of, there's one of them not shown on there, but we wanted to use about the same criteria that we've always used to judge proposed uses.
So this won't go to the planning and zoning board. This is for emergency basis, so you just kind of make the decision, right?
That's correct. It's determined internally, and planning and zoning has seen this application and did recommend approval onto you guys for consideration.
Well, I think it's a good idea. Don't get me wrong. I was just wondering.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since this is just for the Eclipse, should we have somewhere in the title, Eclipse guidelines for review or Eclipse application, something like that? Should we
Clarify it that way?
narrow it just for this? You know, and if a couple of years down the road something else comes up, we want to do it for you, you can just take the word Eclipse out and put in truck rodeo,
Whatever it is.
if you want to use it again in the future.
Certainly don't have a concern with that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think you want to be more specific than that. I think we want to establish dates. You could have somebody that decides, well, I'm going to start the campground in June, and it's going to be for the Eclipse. Well, we didn't say that you can't start your Eclipse now. Your Eclipse, campground, and they just
Right here.
Okay.
3 days
All right.
before and 3 days after.
Okay, I didn't get that far. Okay.
Well, actually, the
1
permit
week
says
prior.
here it'll be valid 1 week prior
Okay.
and 1 week after the
Okay.
event.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I think this is an opportunity. We haven't adopted a fire ban or anything like that, but I think we should. And I think that should be maybe on the top and in red on this permit, saying that there no campfires will be allowed. And then the folks that are kind enough to go through this process can help us educate the folks that are coming to town.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Because this is just the Eclipse, I think we could, we don't know whether we're going to have a fire ban there anyway, but we want one that week.
I agree.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, because this is a permit for those 2 weeks.
And
No reason why we can't put it in there.
quite honestly, Commissioner Keating, when we've told the landowners about it's highly likely we're going to be in a fire ban, there's been a sense of relief on the other end of the phone, because they truly don't want the liability of a camper having a fire and it getting out of hand and causing harm elsewhere. So the landowners we spoke with are in favor of not having fires.
Oh man, I tell you what, you get a fire going with the trailers 15 feet apart.
Ooh.
Could be good. Yeah.
It could be a really good fire.
Yeah, so I would ask if we would think about putting it, towards the front of the permit and in red letters, kind of a deal. I mean, just because I think it's and I love the idea of marking it so hey, it's just we got heart pain, chest pain, whatever, number 7.
Yeah.
Right there. That's great.
Perfect.
That's good. Really good.
So it's like a full fire ban. Then it's so you can use like a propane stove or something, but no open flame.
Yep.
All right.
I like
Got to
that.
have a shut-off valve on it, I believe.
I think many others are looking at that too right now very strongly, like BLM and
Yeah.
people like that. So
Well, we never know what the weather's going to be now between now and then, but the end of August is the
Historically.
driest. So,
It's prime.
yeah, be ready. I like this too that I just mentioned to Jason about the livestock roundup. We've got the other news outlet here. They'll be able to put it on the news too, that they can acquire a permit.
Wait, who's livestock what? I'm sorry.
Your news,
Yeah.
the livestock roundup, that
Oh.
paper,
Right.
they're gonna do an article about it.
Mhm.
And so, you know, you guys will be doing articles and news releases and stuff about it, so.
Since I got dragged into this, can I ask a question or two?
Since you got dragged into it, go ahead.
Thank you. I know how to sling that guilt around. don't I? Anyway, first of all, let's say Ranch X gets this permit and they've set up the lines and all this stuff. Will they be requiring the people who come in to visit to in effect sign off on something like this saying, I, Joe, citizen from Colorado, will not have an open flame, campfire, that kind of thing? Or is it just for the landowner?
It's only for the landowner. We're gonna work with the landowners, not with the occupants.
Okay, and in terms of the landowner who's got a big place, can be all over the place, and what if a camper decides, I don't need no stinking rules, and decides he wants to have a campfire? So is there then a provision where the landowner can call the very scarce resources and say, hey, we have a problem here? How is it going to be enforced?
I believe all landowners would have that ability to be able to call in to the, as you put it, our scarce resources and try to get some support out there,
Okay.
to help manage those folks. The ones we've spoken with, the landowners are very, very educated on the liabilities behind it and potential consequences. So I would suspect there's going to be some releases taking place and some agreements. I hereby agree to your campground rules to be here, but we're not going to be involved in that side of it.
Okay.
Good.
It's fire ban. Because I'm not too sure about, with the fire ban we put in there, then that is the official fire ban that the county has put in place in this agreement. Is that right?
Well, we'd have to adopt it. We would have to take action to make it official.
Yeah. So, and we wouldn't do that with every permit, would we?
I think this is unique. And then we may have a fire ban in place anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm asking that we put it on here specifically, even if it starts raining between now and the start of the eclipse, I would still like one in place, for a period, because these folks can help us educate all those folks that are running into town that we have no ability to talk to. And once it is in place, then that guy that decides, hey, you know what, I'm going to have a fire anyway, what are they going to do about it? It would give a sheriff's deputy the ability to take action.
Okay, don't disagree with what you're saying, but I'm trying to figure out, when there's a fire ban, it's an official fire ban. So if we put something in this document, how does it become an official fire ban?
Mr. Chairman, I think we have the ability just to outlaw the open flames entirely as a condition of granting the permit to the owner. We could
Okay.
just indicate that we shall be.
We could ask the fire warden.
I missed that conversation. No, really.
Yeah.
We could do, we were talking about, Mike, that on this guidelines for camping spots, if somebody has a piece of land and stuff, that part of the guidelines would, in this little piece of paper, it's specific for a week before and a week after the eclipse, that we would have a fire ban associated with that permit. And just wondering if we had to do it on resolution now, but Heather says we could do it as a part of this.
Yeah, I'd just do it as part of this, we'll probably be under a fire ban anyway.
Chances are, yeah,
Some of the counties are talking about just putting it on, period.
yeah,
Some of them are talking about a full fire ban,
really.
which I wouldn't go that far.
No open flames at all anywhere, yeah.
Now, in this case, that's what we're talking about, no open flames, right?
Well, if in a Coleman stove or something.
Yeah, you could still, under a normal fire ban, you could still cook with a gas stove, but you couldn't use briquettes, you couldn't use open fire, wood, campfire ring.
Gotta have a valve to shut
Gotta
it
have
off.
anything that had a valve that you could shut off.
Well, I know when you do the fire bans on a broad basis, it defines all that, and that's, but if we just put fire ban in here, I'm just trying to figure out what's the definition of fire ban in this.
Well, then
Mike?
please include it in the
Yeah.
permit.
Just
Yeah.
We'll,
put one more
we'll make it
page.
very clear here, and we'll work with Mike to make sure it's got the right verbiage in there to indicate the type of ban that would not allow open fire with the briquettes or wood, but would allow someone to use a barbecue and
Thank you, I just, and if they did violate that, then who would enforce that?
Mike.
Yeah. Okay, so I was just kind of following up on
Mike.
the question that was here about how it get enforced.
I'd take my bow and arrow out.
Good. Great.
Thank you.
I'm glad you did it. I had a gal down at the legislature ask me, well, I got a little piece of land up there, maybe I ought to set up a camping spot. So last week when I went back down there, I said, hey, I got info for you.
Yeah.
Run up there and give those guys a call.
I have roughly 3 pages of names and phone numbers that I have to return when we get this approved and get it out to them. So,
Good.
and it's
They're
growing.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
Good. Well, if we can just keep them here a week, that might just fix the budget up.
what changes do we need to make to this so that it can be forwarded then on to, or can we consider it as early as tonight, or?
I think I talked to Charmaine, she's gonna have it ready for the next meeting.
Perfect.
It's ready for this evening.
We will,
Update.
development will come back and update this per the comments we received today. And then it sounds like, according to county legal, that could be on the agenda at the following BOCC meeting to enact these rules.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I would ask that we touch base with Stu Anderson, because I think this is a fantastic way, again, to reach out to those folks that are coming into town. Is there anything he would suggest that we add?
Have you already
I
talked to
have
Oh.
met with Stu,
Oh, okay.
as well as the Highway Patrol and the hospital, the health department, and we've gone over this. I did include, as far as some of the unit specifications, which came from the health department's regulations, I didn't feel it was necessary for somebody to come to us with a site plan and then have to come up with a new one for the health department. So I did incorporate some of their regulations into ours. That way it's all covered. And I'm also emailing this to Stu as we get him in and get him returned. But he has had input on this as well.
Wow, we should do this for a living. Nice job.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah,
Too bad we have a hiring freeze.
yeah. Boy, this is just, when they first started talking about it, I thought, well,